Hi friends, we are going to make a really fun craft today. I found this at a thrift store the other day, this little sign, and it is super cute like that, but it's not what I needed it for. So I had this little antique clip on it with some little screws. So I took that off, and I'm just going to sand it because the top part wasn't really super smooth. So I wanted to smooth it out. And then I will paint with vintage white folk art paint, just acrylic paint over the top. And I will give that 2 coats, and it mostly covers all the writing. And I just get that top edge is all, I'm leaving it black. So I'm going to give that a good dry, and then I put on a second coat and gave that a good dry. So this is a really pretty nativity watercolor image, and these are in my Etsy shop, so the link will be below this video if you are interested in them. There are 10 different images of Joseph, Mary, and the baby Jesus in the stable, some with donkeys, some with lambs, you know, a little bit, the little manger and some hay and stuff, and the night sky. They're really, really pretty. And so now I'm just going all around the edges with a wet paintbrush, just so it will give it that torn edge look. And I wanted it right up close to the white because I needed that height. But I had to take off probably about 3/4 of an inch on both sides to get it to the size I wanted it for my sign. So I get it mostly torn all off, and then I need to take a little bit more off on the sides, I notice. Here's where I noticed I need it not quite as wide, so I'm taking another probably 1/2 inch off or so. So you just get it really wet with a wet paintbrush till it soaks through the paper, and then it tears so easily and leaves that rough, torn, vintage edge that I like. So here I'm going to use some distressing ink by Tim Holtz in the color Vintage Photo, and this wasn't necessarily something that had to be done, but I chose to just kind of darken up the edges ever so slightly. So I'm not going crazy with it, I'm just getting the edges just distressed just a little bit. So now I'll set that aside, and I'm going to put a generous layer of Mod Podge all over the top. Just getting that whole area where the image will be. So I'm using my heating tool. You can get these almost anywhere, Amazon or anywhere. And while I'm thinking of it, I want to let you know that my craft pieces are almost always for sale. So if you ever want to buy one, just message me, and if it's still available, we can figure out shipping and all that. So anyway, I put it where I wanted it after the Mod Podge was dry. Then I put my parchment paper over the top, and I'm using my little mini travel iron and just making sure it's all adhered down really well. The heat reactivates that Mod Podge and just this is my favorite way to Mod Podge. I think it's looking so pretty already. Just using a little bit more of that distressing ink and getting the corners and the edges just slightly. Here I decided to use my little mini sander and just scruff up the stand just a little bit more in a couple little spots. And then I'll use my distress ink on those spots that I sanded. So I have this little tag that I made on the computer, and it says Holy Night. So I'm just trimming it down to make it a little bit smaller, just the size that I want, getting it straight. And then I'm going to use my Tombow liquid glue and just glue that on some black cardstock, leaving about a 1/16 of it, or about an 1/8 inch, 1/16 inch around the edge, just a slight little black border around it. And then I'm going to do the same thing and glue it on a piece of chipboard. It's medium weight chipboard, just to raise it all up and give this project a little more dimension. And again, I'm just leaving just a slight border around that black cardstock. And just cutting the edge of the cardstock away. And I'm going to use a little bit of Distress ink on this as well. And then I put Mod Podge on the back after deciding where I wanted to lay it. And then decided I just could have put hot glue on it, so it gets both. So here I'm putting a little hot glue on as well. And I'm putting that in the upper right corner. And now I've got some of this burlap twine ribbon, and I believe I got this on Amazon. I will try and find the link for that as well. So I'm just gluing the ends up, both ends up in the middle, and gluing them. And I was first undecided whether I should make a tail on this bow or just leave it like this. So I played around with the ribbon for a minute and thought about it. I couldn't decide if I wanted to redo the bow and make like an awareness bow with some tails, but I opted to stay with my first instinct. So I'm just going with this, and I scrunch it up in the middle. Then I'm getting twine and just wrapping it around several times, probably 4 or 5, 6 times maybe. Then I tie it in a knot in the back and clip off those excess pieces. Kind of fluffing it and layering it the way I want it. And I'm just going to glue it right in the middle there of the stand. Just holding it till it is staying in place really well. So even though this is Christmas, I'm keeping it really muted neutral colors, as you can see already. So now I'm taking more twine, and I wrapped it around my fingers 3 or 4 times to make loops, and then I'm wrapping the twine in the middle several times. And I'm going to glue that on top of that burlap bow. Had to hold it down until the glue was set and secure. Trimming it up, and I had to look at it straight on to make sure everything was straight and centered. And now I'm decided I wanted a little bit more, so I'm putting some Excelsius. This is kind of like a Spanish moss or a raffia straw, and I'm just gluing a bit of that on each side underneath the bow. Then I had quite a bit to trim up. And I'm gathering some of the pieces that I cut off, and I'm putting some in the center. And obviously I'll trim all that up as well. I really like the look that Excelsior gives projects. It just gives it an added extra touch. You can tell it's not bulk made in a manufacturing store or something. You can tell it's just handmade, and little effort has gone into these projects, and I really like that. So I'm trimming it up, and then I kind of have to shake off the loose pieces. And the last thing I want to do is I've got a little wooden button heart, And so I'm taking a really thin piece of twine that I have and putting it through both holes, and I'm going to tie a tiny little bow on the top of that. I get it tied, and then I just pull it tighter and smaller till it's how I want it. And I'll trim off those long pieces, and I'll glue it right on the center of that bow. And that is it for this project. I love how it turned out. I hope you do too. Again, all my pieces are for sale, so if you're interested in this, let me know. Otherwise, I'm prepping lots of projects for my craft fairs that are coming up in a couple months. And I hope this inspires you to make something similar. All these nativity prints will be in my Etsy shop, and the link will be below. And I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. I appreciate the support. Please like and subscribe, and you have a whimsical day. Thanks so much.